Hi, I'm Dr. Hauke Koch. I'm a research leader here at Kew and I study the importance of plants for pollinators. I work particularly on the chemistry of pollen and nectar and how that affects pollinator health. Pollinators are crucial for our ecosystems and for our crops. Most of the plants in the world are pollinated by animals, and the animals are needed to transfer pollen from one flower to the next, and without that happening the plants can't set seed, and for example we won't get a lot of our food crops, but also in nature a lot of the plant diversity that occurs naturally can't be propagated. So it's really important that we protect our pollinators, but it's also important that we make sure that we monitor our pollinators and know what is actually happening to our pollinator populations. So what you can do to help is to actually look at the pollinators in your local environment yourself. And there's a nice citizen science approach now for the UK with a nice app to collect your own pollinator observations, maybe in your local park, maybe in your garden. And you can download that app and it does a fit count, which is a flower insect time count. So you have to focus on a patch of flowers locally and count the number of pollinators you see during a certain time frame.
So I'm Tamsin and this is Alfie, and we are here with Pollinating London together in the beautiful Kew Gardens, about to take part in a Fit Count survey. The Fit Count is a project that is supported by the UK Centre of Ecology and Hydrology, and you can join in with the app that we have today, and we're going to talk you through it now.
So the basis of the app is to measure the amount of pollinators entering and exiting an area in a 10-minute period. As you set out your 1 metre squared grid, over a 10-minute countdown, you count however many pollinators enter the grid. You enter this data on the app, and after the 10-minute period's up, you send off the data.
I'm Anthony Bickmore. I am a chartered surveyor by profession, which means I'm in the property world. I joined the wax chandlers probably some 20 years ago, and the wax chandlers are interested in beeswax, and therefore they have an interest in the honeybee. As I've come through the governing body and of the courts, I was shortly to be master. I started to think about what I wanted to do in my year as master, and one of the things which really struck me was the importance of but decline in pollinators across the globe, and was there anything which we could do to publicise that more and get people to understand it more as something which they can relate to personally. Actually, this is something which matters to everybody. It affects the food we eat, it affects the environment we have, so we need to look after it in that way. But the point is that the numbers of pollinators have declined quite significantly, some say 30 or 40%, over the last 20 or 30 years, and they carry some of the DNAs of the globe and some of the bits which we need to understand and think about. So it's important because they also do pollinating of crops, and therefore it's about the food we eat. Every third mouthful we have is based on what pollinators do. Every third mouthful we eat is based on what pollinators help to deliver. So it's important for the food we eat as well as the natural environment. So whether it's changes in the efficiency of insecticides which are applied to crops, whether it's because we've lost the natural environment that we don't put, it's more intensively farmed maybe, and we're not managing the hedgerow edges, we're not managing the wild spaces. So that's all the things which have driven the change.
I'm Sue Green. I'm master of the Wax Chandlers, an ancient livery company based in the city of London, whose roots derive from the wonderful work that the honeybee has done over the years. We used to make, and we still support the wax industry, beeswax industry and honeybees. So for me, one of the key reasons I think it's so important that my livery company are involved in this pan-livery initiative is that the honeybee is in severe decline, as are many other pollinators, and it's basically because we're not looking after our environment enough to create the gardens and countryside that allows these bees and other pollinators to forage. There is a lot of work to be done with Pollinating London Together. We're in our early stage of formation, but we've got some great ideas on many aspects.
So I'm Heather Barrett-Mould, and I'm Master of the Worshipful Company of Gardeners. The Worshipful Company of Gardeners is one of the city livery groups, and when we say gardeners, actually it means the whole of horticulture, all aspects of horticulture. What Pollinating London Together does is to promote pollinator-friendly planting. So there are something like 270 different species of bee before you even get on to the hoverflies and all the other pollinators. One of the species of bee is the honeybee, and the honeybee is okay, but all the others are pretty much in decline. So what those pollinators need is they need food, so they need plants that are good for nectar, plants that they can get into, and they need shelter to nest in and to stay relatively safe in. So the plants that you need to be looking at are fairly simple plants. You don't want double plants because pollinators can't get into them. You don't want highly cultivated plants which have been cultivated so much that they don't really have any nectar anymore. And these are plants which are going to be quite good at looking after themselves, so they don't need a huge amount of attention, but you can have a look at those and see what you think might suit your area.
Okay, thank you so much for the tour today. Really expert knowledge, great background, and with passion. We really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for hosting us today, and thank you to Kew for having us here. The gardens are truly spectacular, really bringing home the importance of pollinators and how important the work you're doing is to pollinators. You know, we've all learned a lot today. We've seen and learnt a lot today, and we know it doesn't take much effort to develop the gardens and approaches and strategies for pollinators here in and around London and in the world. For Pollinating London Together, most of you know that our purpose and vision is to create the spaces in the City of London and its immediate environ where all natural pollinators can thrive and their habitats can be enjoyed by everyone. Our mission, a membership organisation, is to influence organisations and individuals to positively support pollinators in the management of urban land resources and build the environment in the UK, starting in the City of London. Improving biodiversity is the cornerstone of our work, and as we all know, biodiversity relates to the range and quantity of species that maintain a balanced environment. We also need green spaces for good mental health and for the impact that they can have on air quality. Heather and you, Hauke, have told us and taught us about citizen science and the demonstration of the new Fit Count app. We can see keeping track of the number of pollinators in our areas. It's instrumental in our work to measure the impact of what our changes can do to the lives of pollinators. You may have heard of the famous organisational performance improvement specialist, Dr. H. James Harrington. This is one of his famous quotes, and it's so apt to this work and so important to what we're doing. Measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually to improvement. If you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. If you can't control it, you can't improve it. How important and how apt is that? I'd like to finish with a few thank yous. Thank you to Andrew, Salar, Eles and Marissa for being with us here today, and thank you for attending, and we're looking forward to some great output that you're going to develop for us for our use over the coming weeks and months ahead. Becky, our project coordinator, thank you for your great coordination today, getting us here, and your great interactions with Hauke and making today happen in the way that it's happened. Thank you very much for your help in that. And finally, thank you to you all, the PLT board, working group members, supporters and friends, for all your hard work and dedication to pollinating London together. Thank you all very much, and thank you for joining us today. Greatly appreciated.